Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. We'll call this 32nd regular session of the Mayor and City Council to order. Kristin Aleshire, Councilmember Aleshire, will give the invocation, and we'll have the pledge to the flag. If you would please stand and join us.
Accept our thanks for the day and all its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to our community. Bless our fellowship this evening and our service.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dreaming about being a big star.
I have a few announcements. We'll be following the rules of procedure adopted by this administration on December 20th, 2016. If you have a cell phone, please either mute it or turn it completely off. Any correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and shall include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. The meeting dates in February are February 6th, 13th, and the 20th are work sessions at 4 p.m. and February 27th is a regular session at 7 p.m. Our next council member, Charles Austin Heffernan Jr., will not be at that meeting on the 27th. I already told on you. All right, we need a motion to appoint to council Charles Austin Heffernan Jr., please.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council to appoint Charles Austin Heffernan Jr. as council member effective January 30th, 2018. Councilmember Heffernan is being appointed to fill the vacancy and complete the remaining term created by the resignation of Councilmember Paul D. Quarterman. Councilmember Quarterman's resignation was effective December 19, 2017, and the mayor and city council do hereby accept said resignation.
Second would be nice. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I do. I will try to be brief and explain my vote or lack thereof. So I will begin by just initially saying I'm going to abstain from voting on this. And the reason I am, our interview of Mr. Heffernan and my review of his resume makes him about as qualified of an individual as I've ever met. Matter of fact, Austin, when your interview was completed, three of us who worked with him for at least two administrations looked at each other and said, Marty Brubaker. I can tell you that is a high compliment, and about as high a compliment as I could give someone who is seeking this position. So the reason that I'm abstaining is because I could never vote no for your nomination to this, because I think you are highly qualified, and I'm looking forward to working with you. My conflict is over my own personal integrity. Since these openings became available, I have made it clear to everyone that I thought Penny Nye, because of her status in running and losing by 7 votes, was the appropriate person. And I fear that voting yes would make me a hypocrite in a lot of people's eyes who I've said that I would support Penny. But as I said, there's no way I would vote no. That is the reason for my abstaining. I hope you understand that.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. With that, I'd like to call Council Member Charles Austin Heffernan Jr. up front, along with his better half.
Swear
to support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and to be faithful
and to be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the
Maryland,
and support the Constitution
and support the Constitution
and laws thereof,
and laws thereof,
and the charter and ordinances
and the charter and ordinances
of the city of Hagerstown.
of the city of Hagerstown.
And I will,
And I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of City Council Member for the city of Hagerstown,
execute the office of City Council Member for the city of Hagerstown,
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and the laws of this state.
and the laws of the state.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's okay, I got another. I need you to sign the book. Right there for me. And just make sure, well,
Thank you.
okay, let's get a picture. Hold that up.
Hey, come on in. All right, on three. 1, 2, 3. One more for good measure. 1, 2, 3. Good.
Thanks again. Thank you. Please take your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, next up on the agenda are citizen comments, and we have a few who signed up. Robin Ward, please step up to the microphone, give us your name and address, please.
My name is Robin Ward, and I live at 136 Broadway. That's what I came to speak to you about. I'm new at this, forgive me if I'm a little bit awkward. I've been living in that building for about 25 years. I've been there longer than anyone else that's there. About half of the apartments are vacant now. I think people leave and then they don't come back. But I am very concerned about security there. We have to worry about junkies in the laundry room. There's no lock on the door. Well, there's a lock on the door, but since the door jamb itself is broken, it doesn't latch. There's no way for it to shut. I sent complaints to code compliance this morning. They sent somebody over, brought the fire marshal with them, and found a variety of violations. So I'm hoping that they can be corrected, but this is an ongoing problem. I've had a variety of property management companies taking care of the building over the years. None of them are as bad as this one. And I've brought my neighbor. She's going to be speaking after me, and she's got stories of her own. One of the issues with the security is we had, for nearly on and off for almost a year, a homeless family living on my floor in the hallway. And they had so much stuff stockpiled in their hallway, you would have had to climb over it in order to get to the fire escape. When they renovated one of the apartments, they leave furniture and stoves and fridges and stuff like that on the balcony on the fire escape. And there's trash piled up outside of the building, and that's the fault of the tenants, but it has to be constantly, removed. One of the tenants even throws it out of her window. But that's the kind of situation that we're dealing with. Not really, like I said, I'm not really prepared. How am I doing on time?
You're fine.
Okay.
Don't worry.
But yeah, security is the biggest issue we have to worry about. Like I said, the laundry room doesn't lock either. I went in there one time to put my laundry in, and I turned around and there was a couple of people resting, but I think that they were junkies. And I just hope that, I don't know if there's any way, excuse me. I really think that this property management company, they lie to us all the time. Every time, they don't even answer my emails. I have return receipt. When I try to send an email to them, sometimes they don't even open it. Because if you have return receipt, then if they open it, even if they don't respond to it, you get a message back that they've read it, and they don't do that either. And when they do, they just lie, or they break their promises, and they say, oh, we'll fix it. Yesterday, I came home, the lights, they had forgotten to pay the light bill. My electricity in my apartment was working fine, but the lights in the hallway, the stairwell, the balconies, all black, and the hot water was, there was no hot water. There was water, but not hot water. And this was because of their negligence. It's their responsibility to make sure that their accounts are kept current, and they didn't do that. And I just don't think that they deserve to have a license if they have one. And that's what I came to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela?
Hi, my name's Pamela Hagan. I live at 136 Broadway. I'm on the first floor apartment, 1WF. The same issues that she mentioned. I've lived there for 12 years. We've had a lot of issues with squatters, with junkies, with tenants that live there and let anybody come in and stay there, that had a lot of domestic issues, partying, and fights late at night, and nothing's done about it. Two main really pressing issues. First of all, this is not the first time it's happened. The electricity was shut off, so there was nobody in the building had any hot water. This is a 4-story building. There was also no light at all, not even backup light. So it's very dangerous, especially for people on the upper floors. And in addition to that, on the 2nd of January, my water was shut off. They had one of the apartments that was vacant had frozen pipes, and they shut off the water to my apartment too. I went for over a week with no water and no sewage. And I called them repeatedly, and nothing was done about it. I have rental assistants. I went through them and tried to get help. They denied it happened. They blamed it on Hagerstown Heating and Cooling, which they were the ones that shut it off. But when they did finally come back to turn it on over a week later, the man told me that I told them that the valve we were shutting off was to an occupied apartment, but they completely ignored me. And his assistant told me exactly the same thing when I talked to her separately. This is an ongoing issue with them. Trash is being dumped outside, and when their maintenance people do come to clean it up, they will use the recycle bins that are supposed to be used for recycle only to clean it up. Their maintenance people do that, or they'll use some of the tenants, and that's the way they clean it up, and then they just let it sit there. There's trash sitting there that has been there for over a year. It's still sitting there beside the building. We get complaints constantly from neighbors. They come over. Since I'm the first door inside, people usually come to me to complain from other buildings. This is an ongoing issue with Bill Wood, and they took over the building last February, and it's just disgusting. It's unreal the way these people, they constantly lie to you. You can't trust anything they say. I have had 5 eviction notices in the last year. I have never even once been late on my rent. And it's because of their bookkeeping or screwing something up. At one point, about a month ago, they changed their mailing address, and everybody got eviction notices. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that pretty much covers it. 136 is not the only building. They also own the building next door and several other places. And we can't find out who the owner is. They say that one of the people that works at the office is the owner, but she's really not the owner. We're sure it's not. It's listed as owned by Nile of Broadway, LLC. That's all we can find out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I don't typically like to speak during the public comment period because this is your time to comment. We obviously have ours, so oftentimes folks will leave before it gets to mayor and council comments. And I just wanted to say a couple of things to you. One, thank you for coming in. We rarely ever get renters to come and talk to city staff about such issues, let alone here at a public meeting. I think that is that's brave. And not brave to get up here at a microphone and talk, but I think it is immensely brave to get up here and talk about a subject in which there are entities and individuals that frankly have some control, over your living arrangements, and that's unfortunate. So I'm glad that you brought this issue to us. It certainly isn't relegated to strictly your property. And I think the message that I would hope that we could send back with you, and I would hope that would be on the behalf of this mayor and council and our staff, is for the good tenants out there, and there are tons of them across this city, we are on your side. I think that that is lost a lot of times in translation between those regulatory things that we try and enforce and those property owners that don't want that enforcement to occur. And all those regulatory measures that we put in place are to ensure that residents of our city, renters, owners, whomever, have a safe, quality place to live. And so I want to thank you for coming in, expressing your concerns, and I want to say to every renter out there in this city, every good renter out there and every property across this city, we're on your side. Come forth, tell us the issues that you have, and we will address them as promptly and fairly and completely as we can.
Thanks. Marvin?
I'm Marvin Lohr. I live on Sunnyside Drive in Hagerstown. I would like to thank the fire department for two incidents that happened. One in my neighborhood to help the 94-year-old lady with her carbon monoxide detector. And the three guys that came out were very nice and very helpful for her. And the other one was my fire alarm in one of my buildings went off, and they went through every apartment building and checked everything, helped me turn off the alarm until I could get somebody in there to work on it. And once again, very professional guys, very helpful, and I really appreciate them. Second one, I'd like to thank the police chief for getting me in touch with some of the people in his office that I could talk to about some problems around my neighborhood downtown here, and I really appreciate that. Another thing, I'd like to compliment the city for once on the sending out the bills.
You had to add that, huh?
Yeah, I had to. First time in, what, 3 years? But, you know, it's always the first time. But the billing for the utilities, I had a stack of envelopes and all the crap that goes with it you guys send out for all the bills I get for the different addresses and stuff. And before I got here, damn it, you guys have doubled up on the envelopes. I couldn't believe it, but you must be saving some money. And I think you could tighten them up a little bit better than that, though. A little more work on it, because I still get several, but nothing like before. And to go in my nitpicking now, when I worked years ago in the 60s, I worked with some guys from IBM, and every IBM office, they had a sign up that said, "Think." And I think it would be a good thing for the city to put a couple of those up. And in 1999, when I started buying property up here, my first two buildings were in the 100 block of North Potomac. And up the street, we had a functional YMCA. Down the other corner, we had 3 ladies' shops. A little further down, we had a men's shop, a ski shop. On the corner of Washington and Potomac was a drugstore. Down Washington Street a little bit was a dime store. There were 2 jewelry stores on Washington Street, a gift store, a senator's office, and 2 banks that are no longer here. And that's in 19 years. And I don't know how many years you've been up here, Bob, but Kristin's been 11, and Lou's been, what, about 21. And all this is happening in your watch. So that's why I'm saying think, because things are going downhill. You can spend millions of dollars putting lipstick on the pig, the artwork, and the trail. It's going to be nice eventually. You got the University of Maryland down here. That's a help. But you're losing tax base when you turn these buildings over to the government. You're not getting just real estate tax. Now, you got a lot of vacant stores and a lot of turnover when these guys try to start a business, like the restaurants up here. So one thing you need to work on is all these houses that are either falling down, collapsing on themselves, boarded up, or vacant. It's too many of them. It's got to be a way of doing it. I know there's things that I don't even know about that you have to go through, which somebody has to come up with an idea. And your trash. I've been after you guys 2 years on the trash. You put in a trash code and you don't enforce it. And I know, another compliment to you, I understand you have a pilot program on picking the trash up from the alleys, or at least on one block, if I'm correct. So you guys are moving, but awful slow. And the parking meter thing, I look at the parking meters I go through town, there must be 30, at least maybe 40% of them are vacant all the time. And you want to raise the fee on them. And I don't understand that at all. Maybe you ought to lower it and get people to come downtown. Let's see. And I think if you fix these houses up and get people in them, you raise the value not only of that house, but the houses next to them and across the street from them. That's where your money's going to come from, not from parking meters and shoot, I can't think. And the putting extra fees on the rental units. That's pennies and nickels, where the houses could be hundreds of bucks or more for you. Now, I know once you were quoted in the newspaper, Bob, but people didn't like to walk. Well, I went down to Fairfax, and they got a shopping district down there. It's kind of laid out like a town, but it's all one story, a couple, maybe 2 stories. But people would park and they would walk to these places, and it was crowded. And that was down in Fairfax, so that's gonna be it. But it can be done. My wife, who despises downtown, we were driving through Washington Street a week ago, and she says, they really have some nice buildings down here. They could really do something with this downtown. And the parking, another thing about the parking, I think Lou commented on the beach being expensive, which it is. Even Frederick is, I think they're $1.50 an hour now. But hell, Frederick, you can't even get the place to park. You got to run around. You might as well just go on the deck because they got the business. You got to draw the business here, and you're not doing it. They're leaving. And that's it for today.
Thanks, Marvin. All right, no one else has signed up to speak, but if you wish to speak, please step up to the microphone and give us your name and number, or your name and address.
I have a question.
Now, up to the microphone, please.
Okay. My name's Brian Tanner. I have a question in reference to a meeting that took place 2 weeks ago in reference to permitting issues.
Okay.
As to whether permits should be pulled for water heaters and fixtures and whatnot.
Okay.
Is now the time to address those?
Sure.
Okay. I'm a licensed master plumber in the state of Maryland. I own a company. Work here in Hagerstown. Work in the whole state. It's not right. It's not safe to do away with permitting water heaters, even an electrical water heater. A faucet, fine. It can't hurt anybody. Worst somebody's gonna do is flood their house. A toilet, same difference. They're gonna flood their house at best, at worst. A water heater, explosion issues, electrical issues, standard electric water heater, you can have a lot of issues. We go through 7,500 hours of training before we take a journeyman's test. We still can't install them without a permit or working under a state master. We go through another 3,750 hours to take another test to become a master plumber. Then we can get our insurance and become a business owner. Then we can pull permits to install them correctly and by code to allow maintenance men. Homeowners are doing it. Lowe's sells them every day. Here's the literature, what Lowe's sells, what all the suppliers sells. 3 major dealers in the state, in the United States, of water heaters. First thing in there, safety. Use a licensed professional.
Well, we haven't, just so you know, those changes haven't been made yet.
I know.
Okay, so.
Thank you for your comments, I'm interested in that.
I've got literature, got highlighted sections of the 3 major suppliers of water heaters. Be glad to leave them with you.
I would just like to say also, I sat on this committee and heard the arguments from both sides, from the investor side and from our staff, and our staff was adamantly against changing it. You are the 4th plumber who has spoke to me, 2 of which were clients of mine, 1 was in my home, and now you, that all shared the same message. So I think that is something that we need to take into consideration, for sure.
Every jurisdiction in the state still requires permits. Washington County requires permits on electric water heaters.
I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's some conflicting information, I think.
They all said the same thing.
Anybody else?
Sorry.
Okay, we're gonna move forward then to city administrator's comments, please.
Just a congratulations and welcome to Councilmember Heffernan. Staff and I look forward to working with you. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we're gonna start with, at the other end, with Councilmember McIntire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to welcome Councilmember Heffernan. I am now no longer the new council member, which makes me feel really great. I guess the one thing that I can tell you in the first 30 days or so of my appointment, the city staff here, they're amazing. And the common theme is that everyone has a common goal to improve the city. It's so refreshing that anytime you need something, they're there. I'm sure that you'll have the same experience, so welcome. Also want to thank Chief Lohr. Today I was able to go to the fire station and learn a little bit more about his needs and the fire department's needs, and there's a lot to learn, so thank you very much. I look forward to my ride-along, sort of, a little scary, but I'm gonna cry, I already know, so I'm gonna warn you. And I also want to just close with the fact that I met with a resident, I guess at the Public Square Cafe, and she moved here from Frederick by her choice, and she works in Fort Detrick. You know what she said? She loves Hagerstown. Her lease is up, and she has a chance to move back if she wanted to move closer. She loves walking to the restaurants. She loves going downtown to the events. She loves going to the theater. She loves it here. That was really, really, really encouraging and inspiring to hear that. Good, that's good news. It's great to hear rather than the negativity that we all tend to look at and see on social media and sometimes get a little too much of. So I thought I'd share that positive experience that I had. So that's all, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Metzner.
Thank you, Bob. Austin, welcome.
Thank you.
I truly look forward to working with you. When we interviewed, I couldn't be more serious than when we said Marty Brubaker, because we miss him, and I have the feeling that you're going to have a lot of the attributes that he had, again, all in a positive nature. And doing a little historical research for you and Shelley, I was looking back since 1981, Looks like Fred Kramer was appointed to replace John Donahue, and then in the next administration, Fred Kramer was appointed to replace Red Smith, who passed away. And then I was appointed to replace John Schnebley. Marty Brubaker was appointed to replace Kristin, and Bob Bruchey was appointed to replace Mayor Trump. So there's a lot of us appointees that have done okay, and hopefully both of you will in the future also, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Ms. Keller?
I share in the same sentiment. Sorry I wasn't here last week when you got the official announcement, but I'm definitely looking forward to working with you. And I rewatched your interview again that evening after, and was just amazed by your knowledge of the city, and you clearly have been paying attention to what's going on, and I think you're going to bring a lot to the table, so I'm looking forward to it. And I just wanted to announce for this weekend, those of you who don't know, February 2nd through 4th, Hagerstown is having a Hagerstown Cease Pain event. It is mimicking Baltimore's Cease Fire. They do it every quarter in Baltimore, and they ask for a day of no murders. Yes, it's sad. We have to ask for a day of no murders. Luckily, Hagerstown is not at that point. They didn't want to do a ceasefire. They wanted to do a cease pain. So for the entire weekend, no overdoses, no violence, no domestic violence. And it's to really encourage neighborhoods to come together and rise each other up. The Robert Johnson Center is going to be open for the majority of the day Saturday. If people want to go stop by, they're going to have services available, coffee, donuts. And they're asking anyone who wants to do something in your home, whether you want to open your home for an hour for your neighbors to come over for a cup of coffee, for a hug, a smile, whatever you need, just to try to encourage community to come together and get rid of all this negativity and pain we've been seeing, and really pay attention to your neighbors and try to develop that sense of community that communities once had that we don't really have anymore across the country. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on the Herald Mail article about overdose deaths decreasing. I know, surprise, I'm going to talk about heroin, but I think this is important. There was an article done that Washington County experienced less overdose deaths last year, which is a great thing, but I also believe that is a little misleading because of the amount of Narcan we're giving out, and our fire department and our police department and our EMS department are providing. Overdoses are not down, and they're still continuing. So while we're busy up here shedding light on some of the changes we need to make in this community, I have a question for the doctors in our community, and I'm hoping our community will start asking this as well. The CDC released a report last month that had prescribing rates for each county in the United States. The average prescribing rate for opioids in the United States is 66.5 prescriptions per 100 people. Washington County's is 113.1. So our doctors are prescribing twice the amount of opioids that the rest of the country is. So I think we all need to start asking that question very loudly. We have a problem. It's affecting our community. It's affecting our homeless rates. It's affecting our job market. It's affecting our housing. Why are our doctors prescribing 2 times as much opioids than the rest of the country? So I'm going to continue to talk about this. I hope you guys will join me. And you can go to cdc.gov and actually pull the names of the doctors in our community and see who's prescribing what and compared to what their specialty across the country is. I think it's very eye-opening, and we need to come together and start asking some questions pretty loudly, because that's pathetic. Sorry to be the negative one. Thanks.
Councilmember Heffernan.
I wanted to thank everybody for the warm welcome. I'm looking very forward to working with the mayor, council, city government, city administrator. I think Hagerstown is on the cusp of very great things, and I think we're at a point now where a lot of the things that a lot of the decisions we make in the near term here are really going to make us or break us. And what I hope to try to do is, I'm totally in support of the downtown redevelopment. I want to, as Marty said over there, we want to see businesses grow, businesses downtown. I want to find out why businesses don't want to locate here. I want to find out why do we have a negative reputation? What is it that's keeping developers out? We have developers that try to come in here and establish a new business or move a business to Hagerstown. And I think in some respects, we're our own worst enemy. in terms of what we do to keep businesses from wanting to come here. I'd like to, hopefully I can help in that regard. I want to get to the bottom of it and see what we can do to make this a very, very attractive place for new investors to come into. So I hope we can do that, and look forward to working here.
Thank you. Mr. Aleshire?
Sure. Well, that's a good segue, Mr. Heffernan. Welcome, and you know, that was exactly the primary reason for me when we evaluated the applications we received, that I, you know, was obviously in favor of putting your name forward, was your existing business acumen and knowledge at the airport. You know, as a former county commissioner, I often said to people, you know, I don't think folks realize just how many jobs exist out there, how many businesses exist out there, and the economic opportunities that it provides this county. And so I thought that was a good sort of background to have and bring to this table. And I think your knowledge of the budget was just sort of icing on the cake for me. So I appreciate you being able to bring both those perspectives. And speaking of perspective, I just wanted to address two items that have occurred in our discussions over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the one being the issues associated with the hotel or the potential for the hotel closure, and really how that resonates across the city and really the county as a whole in other establishments and types of living arrangements that are existing in similar fashion that have an impact on this community, like it or not, want to face it or not, that's a reality. I've always been a realist rather than an optimist. And, you know, it certainly hasn't been popular to take the positions I think that I have, you know, among the various parties that both operate those places in the manner that they do, or frankly, the folks that utilize them in the manner that they utilize them. The second, and I see, you know, some of the fire guys sitting in the back, is my sort of frank comments during our discussions on the fire system in this county. Those are not new comments. I think I've been sharing those types of comments and perspectives to anyone that would listen, you know, since 2008, probably as a commissioner. And again, that's not, those aren't overly popular positions to share and to take. But when you recognize in this seat, you know, those sort of what I would consider are epidemic level issues that need to be addressed, you get nowhere in addressing them if you don't talk about them in as public and as candid a manner as needs to be done. And I think that just simply represents the fact that you know, this position is, there's an expectation to serve the desires of the public, to demand that these things, you know, be addressed and be resolved, so that those services are delivered, and so that the community exists in sort of the most you know, efficient manner possible. And I realize that, you know, as I said in my public comments over the week, you know, for me, this isn't the end of either of those discussions. For me, it's just the beginning of a lot of things that need to be hashed out and taken care of.
Last but not least, I want to thank the fourth grade class at the Jonathan Hager Elementary School for welcoming me today and the first stop of the If I Were Mayor essay contest. I had a great time. They were a great group of kids. And again, I want to thank you very much. I had a fantastic time, so thank you for welcoming me there. Speaking of 136 Broadway, I did have an update after my code compliance people visited there. So we have an eye on that now. So hopefully you'll see some change, okay? That's it for me. So, moving on to the approval of the minutes, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of minutes of December 5, December 12, December 19, and December 21, all of 2017.
Second.
She seconded.
Oh, you gotta speak up a little bit, Shelley.
Second. Second.
In discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
See how that works there, Ms. McIntire?
Uh-huh,
Okay.
now I get it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approve of resolution granting use of a portion of an easement to Atlantic Home Construction LLC.
Mr. Mayor, I move the mayor and council approval of resolution to grant use of a portion of an easement to Atlantic Home Construction LLC to enable construction, operation, and maintenance of a privately owned force main. Use of the easement will not interfere with the city's use. Review and Herald Publishing Association has consented to Atlantic Home Construction LLC's use of a portion of the city's easement.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution, approval of a license agreement for the use of the elevator in the ADA parking deck.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move to execute a license agreement between the City of Hagerstown and Bowman 2000 LLC for their access and use of the city's elevator and the A&E parking deck from the adjacent Masonic Temple Building at 54 South Potomac Street.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask for one point of clarification from staff in regard to the prior item, which is the easement?
Okay.
It's just a question. It doesn't have an effect on the motion. This indicates a perpetual easement and right-of-way. Does that mean that we own that strip of land, or it's simply a piece of property in which we have some form of use with an underlying owner?
I can speak to that if I may.
Okay.
Councilman Aleshire. It is a right of, excuse me, it's an easement that the city has over Herald Mail property.
Herald Publishing, not Herald Mail, right?
I'm sorry, Review and Herald.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
And Atlantic Homes is going to occupy a portion of that easement. We do own the pump house ourselves, but they don't have the right to an easement on that.
Okay, so we don't own the strip to the pump house, we just,
We have an easement.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Approval of resolution, execution of a lease agreement for the city of Hagerstown, property located at 14 North Potomac Street, Suite B, 3 and 287 square foot basement storage, Hagerstown, Maryland.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement at the city of Hagerstown, property located at 14 North Potomac Street in Hagerstown, Maryland. Lease will be between the city of Hagerstown and the state of Maryland, Department of Labor, Licensing and Regulation, Division of Occupational Safety and Health, and shall be in effect from January 1st, 2018 to July 31st, 2018.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of resolution, approval of revised contract with MHA Audio for the 2018-19 Western Maryland Blues Fest, audio and staging services.
Mr. Mayor, I move the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution approving the revised pricing and authorizing the execution of a contract with MHA Audio for audio and staging services for the 2018 and 2019 Western Maryland Blues Fest. The revised pricing is $24,160 per year due to the modifications to the event.
Second.
Discussion? All in
Just-
favor?
Just a comment, I just want to thank staff. I know some months ago that this item appeared to be sort of DOA within, our discussions in the community. And I think that, folks rose up to the occasion, both in the community and our staff, to ensure that that did not occur, at least not in total. And appreciate your ability to sort of work through the issues and find compromise to make it continue.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolution update to CDBG homeownership program guidelines.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move the mayor and city council approve a resolution to adopt updates to the CDBG homeownership program guidelines. The adopted updates will replace obsolete guideline language and create additional opportunities to sell existing CDBG homeownership properties. The updated guidelines are attached.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of resolution, execution of license agreement for the portion of City of Hagerstown property known as 60 West Washington Street, Hagerstown, Maryland.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution authorizing the execution of a license agreement for a portion of the City of Hagerstown property known as 60 West Washington Street in Hagerstown, Maryland. The license agreement will be between the City of Hagerstown and Michael Chilcutt and shall be in effect from March 1st, 2018 to April 30th, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of a deed to convey land to Salem Point Investment LLC.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move to authorize staff to execute a deed conveying .23 acres of property we recently received from the Maryland State Highway Administration to Salem Point Investments LLC to allow the expansion of their parking and business operations. This is the culmination of a land transfer that was authorized by ordinance number 0-15-18, approved by mayor and council in 2015.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of Hagerstown Suns fireworks schedule for 2018.
Mr. Mayor, the mayor and council approve 5 fireworks shows after Hagerstown Suns baseball games during the 2018 season, and that the mayor and council's approval will exempt these 5 shows from the City of Hagerstown's noise ordinance under Section 155-5 of the Code of the City of Hagerstown.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of a lease to supply golf carts for greens at Hamilton Run.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to move to award a lease for golf cart specialties at Pottstown, Pennsylvania for a 6-year golf cart agreement to include lease and full maintenance of 20 new 2018 gas-powered golf carts with tops. The lease payment shall be $1,156.62 per month for a total of $13,879.44 per year. This is a piggyback on Washington County's December 2017 competitive bid and award.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of memorandum of understanding with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources.
Mr. Mayor, who will authorize the city to enter into an agreement with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources to receive a grant in the amount of $3,500 for continuing insecticide injection of ash trees in City Park to prevent emerald ash borer damage to the trees.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of a contract for Phase 1 of the stormwater utility fee study.
Mr. Mayor, the mayor move for the approval of a contract with AMEC Foster Wheeler of Chantilly, Virginia, to complete Phase 1 of a stormwater utility fee study in the amount not to exceed $84,550. Phase 2 and 3 will be awarded at a future date. Funding for the study will be by the general fund, anticipating that in the future, the new stormwater utility will reimburse the general fund for the cost of this study.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
Right ahead.
There's obviously been some discussion among folks within the community about this issue, and it's happened sort of every time the issues come up. And, you know, over that course of 5 years, probably at this point, you know, as I think all of us that work within that field expected, you know, the state isn't reversing course on these directives. They're actually gaining greater authority and pressing forward more immediately in enforcing all jurisdictions to do this. And, you know, for folks that don't believe this is coming, or, you know, want to move somewhere else because of it, you know, the reality is there are 6 states that impact the Chesapeake in some form, you know, within that watershed area. And those federal rulings, like it or not, over the next 10 years, as they have been moving forward at an increasing pace over the last 30 years, are going to be impacted by things like this, are going to have to do things exactly like this. And the reality is, if you really want to get away from it, you're going to have to move out of the Chesapeake Bay watershed, because these things are coming to a jurisdiction, to a state near you, whether you like them or not.
And the Chesapeake Bay watershed expands a lot farther than most people
New York,
realize.
Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, I mean.
Yep. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of mutual aid agreement with the Washington County Sheriff's Department and the City of Frederick.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and council approval of a mutual aid agreement with the Washington County Sheriff's Office and the City of Frederick to provide, in cases of emergencies, assistance consistent with resources, specialized units, equipment, and/or law enforcement personnel. The only potential cost to the City of Hagerstown would be personnel costs during the deployment incident.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of inductees to the Hagerstown Circle of Achievement at Memorial Park for 2018, and approval of a date for the annual induction ceremony for 2018.
Mr. Mayor, based on the recommendations forwarded to the mayor and council by the Circle of Achievement Inductee Review Committee, pursuant to compliance with criteria for candidacy established by the mayor and council on May 27, 2014, and subsequently amended, I move that the following persons be inducted into the Hagerstown Circle of Achievement at Memorial Park for the class of 2018, listed alphabetically: Mayor Winslow, Forthman Burhans, Mrs. Clara Holmes Jenness Hamilton, with the thanks of a grateful city, in accordance with policy adopted by the mayor and city council of Hagerstown, which determined that the annual induction ceremony for the Circle of Achievement shall occur during the weekend before Memorial Day weekend each May, unless altered by the mayor and council. I move that the ceremony for 2018 shall occur on the morning of Saturday, May 19, 2018, at Memorial Park.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's the end of business for this evening. Thank you very much, and see you next week.